Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 24. Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshataam Kalevaram Yavadidam Hinomyaham Prasannaha Sarunalochanollasan Mukhambujo Dhyana Pathaschaturbujaha Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshataam Kalevaram Yavadidam Hinomyaham प्रसन्नः सारुणलोचनोल्लसन् मुखाम्बुजो ध्यानपटश्चतुर्भुजः सदेव देवो भगवान् प्रतीक्षताम् कलेवरं यावदिदं हिनोम्यहम् प्रसन्नः सारुणलोचनोल्लसन् मुखाम्बुजो ध्यानपटश्चतुर्भुजः. Please chant.
Hare Krishna. Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshataam Kalevaram Yavad Idam Hinomyaham Prasannaha Sarunalochanollasan Mukhambudo Bujodhyana Pathaschaturbujaha.
Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshatam Kalevaram Yavaridam Hinomyaham Prashanaha Sarunalokanolokshan Mukham Bojo Dhyana Pataschaturbuja.
Hare Krishna. Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshatam Kalevaram Yavad Idam Hanomiyam Prashana Hasura Runa Locha Nolasan Mukha Pujo Dhyana Patos Chatur Pujaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshataam Kalevaram Yavadidam Hinomyaham Prasannaha Sarunalochanollasan Mukhamboja Dhyana Pataschaturbuja. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshataam Kalevaram Yavad Idam Hinomyaham Prasannaha Sarunalochanollasan Mukhambujo Dhyana Pataschaturbujaha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshataam Kalevaram Yavadidam Hinoyaham प्रसन्नः सारुणलोचनो लसन् मुखाम्बुजोद्यानपटश्चतुर्भुज.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So if everyone's done, we'll do word-to-word translation. Saha, he, Deva Devaha, the Supreme Lord of the Lords. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Pratikshatam, may kindly wait. Kalevaram, body. Yavat, as long as. Idam, this, material body. Hinomi, may quit. Aham, I. Prasanna, cheerful. Hasa, smiling. Arunalochana, eyes red like the morning sun. Ullasat, beautifully decorated. Mukha ambujaha, the lotus flower of his face. Dhyana pathaha, in the path of my meditation. Chaturbhujaha, the four-handed form of Narayan, the worshipable deity of Bhishmadev. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. May my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face, with eyes as red as the rising sun, is smiling, kindly await me at that moment when I quit this material body. I'll read it again. May my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face with eyes as red as the rising sun is smiling, kindly await me at that moment when I quit this material body. Purport. Bhishmadev knew well that Lord Krishna is the original Narayan. His worshipable deity was four-handed Narayan. But he knew that four-handed Narayan is a plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. Indirectly, he desired Lord Krishna to manifest himself in his four-handed feature of Narayan. A Vaishnava is always humble in his behavior. Although it was 100% certain that Bhishmadev was approaching Vaikuntha Dham just after leaving this material body, still, as a humble Vaishnava, he desired to see the beautiful face of the Lord, for after quitting the present body, he might not be in a position to see the Lord anymore. A Vaishnava is not puffed up, although the Lord guarantees his pure devotee entrance into his abode. Here, Bhishmadev says, as long as I do not quit this body. This means that the great general would quit the body by his own will. He was not being forced by the laws of nature. He was so powerful that he could stay in his body as long as he desired. He got this benediction from his father. He desired that the Lord stay before him in his four-handed Narayan feature so that he might concentrate upon him and thus be in a trance in that meditation. Then his mind might be sanctified with thinking of the Lord. Thus he did not mind wherever he might go. A pure devotee is never very anxious to go back to the kingdom of God. He entirely depends on the good will of the Lord. He is equally satisfied even if the Lord desires him to go to hell. The only desire that a pure devotee entertains is that he may always be in rapt attention with thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord, regardless. Bhishmadev wanted this much only, that his mind be absorbed in thinking of the Lord, and that he pass away thus. That is the highest ambition of a pure devotee. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-salakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yeah, so you don't have to share the screen, that's fine. Yeah, thank you. Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshatam. So, Bhishma Dev is speaking to Yudhishthir Maharaj. Yudhishthir Maharaj is here to take instructions, to take lessons from Bhishma Dev. And when the Pandavas arrived, and remember there are all these sages also present, Lord Krishna is personally present, and Bhishma Dev first of all spoke to the Pandavas, and then he is in these verses, this section of the Bhagavatam, he's trying to console, trying to pacify Yudhishthir Maharaj. So in the last few verses we saw, Bhishma Dev is saying how reversals are inevitable in life. Even in the lives of great devotees, reversals are inevitable. And all this is part of the Lord's plan. So from our side, we must simply go by his plan. We have to play our part in that plan. So Yudhishthir Maharaj should not consider himself to be responsible for all the killing and consider himself to be very sinful. Rather, he should see this as a plan of the Supreme Lord. And then he is telling Yudhishthir Maharaj about the position of Lord Krishna. Krishna appears to be one of us. He appears to be a king. He appears to be a Kshatriya, your brother. And he's sitting here along with all of you. But don't mistake him to be an ordinary person. I know for a fact he's not an ordinary person. He's the one who's sustaining everything in this world. And I can see that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is text 24. In the previous text 23, Bhishma Dev said that the personality of Godhead who appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion and meditation and by chanting of the holy name releases the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting the material body. And today's verse is the last verse in this section, where Bhishma Dev is trying to pacify Yudhishthir Maharaj. So that same Lord, which Lord in the previous verse, who appears in the mind of a devotee and who releases him from the bondage of fruitive activities, that same Lord, Saha, that Deva Deva, who is the Lord of all lords, Bhagavan, he is the supreme personality of Godhead. What is Bhishma Dev's prayer? May that Lord, may he await me at the moment when I quit this material body. That is Bhishma Dev's desire. He's expressing his desire, may that Lord stay in front of my eyes while I am quitting this material body. So there are some very important points we will find in this purport. First of all, Bhishma Dev is saying, Chaturbhujaha, may that Lord appear in front of me in his four-handed form. He's beautifully decorated. His face, his lotus face is beautifully decorated with eyes that are reddish like the morning sun. And he's smiling. And he's four-handed. May this Lord be in front of my eyes at the time when I'm quitting my body. So Bhishma Dev is an eternal associate of the Lord from the spiritual world. And he has a special relationship with the Lord. His relationship with the Lord is in Virya Rasa, chivalry. He likes to see the Lord as a warrior. So therefore, in the four-handed form, the Lord carries his weapons. He has a gada, he has Sudarshan Chakra. So, and later on we will see when Bhishma Dev is offering his prayers, he's just marveling the form of the Lord on the battlefield. When he's coming to attack Bhishma Dev with the wheel of the chariot and rushing towards him, Bhishma Dev wants to remember the Lord in that form, because his relationship with the Lord is in Virya Ras. And his Ishta Devata is the form of Parthasarathi, right? Because that is Krishna in the form of a warrior. So he's saying, I want to see my Lord in four-handed form when I'm about to quit this body. So Srila Prabhupada is making a point here that Lord Narayan, the four-handed form, is an expansion of the two-handed Krishna form. Krishna with his two hands is playing flute. Bhishma Dev very well knew that the four-handed Narayan form is a plenary expansion of Krishna. And he is indirectly desiring that Lord Krishna manifest that form, which is very dear to Bhishma Dev in front of him. So that was the first point. Why Bhishma Dev is saying Chaturbhujaha? Because that is his eternal, the form which is most attractive to Bhishma Dev's heart. So then he's saying, my Lord, please stay in front of me when I'm about to quit this body. In this form, yes. But Bhishma Dev's desire is that the Lord should stay in front of his eyes at the time of his quitting the body. Why is Bhishma Dev asking the Lord to stay in front of him? Why he wants to see the Lord? So we understand Bhishma Dev is a Mahajan. Is a devotee not aware that anyone who has lived his life in devotional service, he's going back to Godhead. And when you go back to Godhead, you're seeing the Lord all the time. He should be more eager. Let me just leave and let me just go. And then I'll be seeing the Lord all the time. Why he's saying, my Lord, please, let me see you. As if he's saying, let me see you for, one last time, before I give up this body, as long as I'm able to, let me just keep looking at you. As if he's saying, I don't know what will happen afterwards. After I die, who knows where I'm going. This is the humility of a Vaishnava. Again and again, Krishna is assuring, Kaunteya pratijanihi, name bhakta pranashyati. Arjun, declare it boldly. My devotee will never be vanquished. Doesn't Bhishma Dev know this? Is he not a devotee of the Lord? Of course he's a devotee of the Lord. But still, this is the humility of a Vaishnava. Srila Prabhupada is saying, a Vaishnava is always humble in his behavior. Although it is certain, 100% certain, that Bhishma Dev was approaching Vaikuntha Dham, just after leaving his material body. It is certain. Still, because he's a humble Vaishnava, he's desiring to see the beautiful face of the Lord, because after quitting this present body, he may not be in a position where he'll be able to see this form of the Lord again. This is the humility of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is not puffed up. Although the Lord guarantees his pure devotees entrance into his abode, the Lord is guaranteeing. It's not that he doesn't have faith in the words of the Lord. Will Krishna come before me? Will I see? Krishna will come. But am I doing my part now? Because if I do my part, there's no doubts. Krishna will do more than what he's supposed to do. He will do. But a Vaishnava always thinks, I have never done, I'm not a bhakta, I'm not a devotee, I didn't do any devotional service. I don't know it's not applicable to me. I'm also remembering that Kalidas, I told this past time once in class, when Kalidas was visited by Jadu Thakur, right? And then he wanted the remnants. So they had a discussion. Both of them had a discussion. Kalidas belonged to a lower class, low caste. So, sorry, I think Jadu Thakur is the one who belonged to a low class, and Kalidas wanted to get the remnants, right? I think Kalidas is the one who wanted to get the remnants. So he went there, and then he said, and he would go and take everyone's remnants. So he went to Jadu Thakur and he said, he offered him mangoes, and then he wanted his remnants. So he said, no, this is an offense. And there, how can I give you? You are an exalted, Brahmana, and I'm a low caste. So Kalidas said, no, but you're a Vaishnava. Vaishnava is superior to even the Brahmanas. I will only be purifying myself if I take. And then, this is not connected. And then he said, but yeah, that's true. What Shastra says, right? But that is applicable to a Vaishnava. I'm not a Vaishnava. I'm not thinking of Krishna. I'm not a devotee. This is the nature of a devotee. He is never thinking himself to be an exalted devotee. So therefore, I'm going back to Godhead. He's always thinking, I'm not qualified. So that's one thing. Bhishma Dev is saying, my Lord, please stay. So this is one reason why he's asking Krishna to stay in front of him at the time of quitting his body, because I don't know where I'm going after this. So please let me see you as long as I can. The other thing, Bhishma Dev is saying, as long as I do not quit this body, stay in front of me, as long as I do not quit this body. What does that mean? This means that he is going to quit the body by his own will. He is not going to be forced by the laws of nature. Just try to understand the situation of Bhishma Dev. Is it possible for any being, any human being, to live in that condition? In Ramayana, we hear Dasharath Maharaj shot a Shabdaveda arrow at Shravan Kumar. And just one arrow, Dasharath Maharaj thought this was some wild animal who has come to drink water. So Kshatriyas go to the forest and they exercise their hunting skills, fighting skills. So he just shot an arrow to test his capacity to shoot simply by hearing the sound without seeing the object. And that happened to be this a young man called Shravan Kumar, who came to get some water for his old parents, father and mother. One arrow, just one arrow pierced his body and he cried. And immediately Dasharath Maharaj realized, oh, this is a human being. He ran to the spot and he saw it was a human being, a Brahmana. So there, of course, he explains how he came to get some water for his old parents who were blind, and he was the only support for his parents. And he said they were very thirsty. It was in the night. He said, please bring this water to my parents. And then he asked Dasharath Maharaj to relieve him from that pain, to pull out that arrow. And Dasharath Maharaj knew that for sure, if he pulled that arrow out of the body, he was going to die. Nevertheless, to relieve him from that pain, he pulled out that arrow and he died. He collapsed. That was just one arrow. Bhishma Dev's body is pierced by hundreds of arrows. And he's been there in that condition for how many days? He was pierced and he remained there. The arrows pierced through his body, went past the body and came out from the other side. And like this, there were hundreds of arrows through his body. And when he fell off from the chariot, it created a bed of arrows on which he was laying. Extremely painful condition. Is it possible for any human being to even remain alive in that condition? Bhishma Dev was so powerful, he could actually decide when he will give up his body. And he was enduring all that pain. He was staying there. Why? That's the question. Why is he staying there? He could have left. So yes, as we said, the earlier reason is he's waiting for Krishna to come. But also, there was a service that he had to perform in that body. This is very, very, the deeper we go into the Vaishnava philosophy, into the heart of a Vaishnava, what is his desire, we will become completely amazed. He didn't mind the pain that he is enduring. But in that condition also, if there is any service that he could render to the Lord, he doesn't mind all the difficulties and all the pains. He's remaining in that body just to, there was something more that he had to do for the Lord. There was some service that was remaining that could be done in that body. What was that service? He had to pacify Yudhishthir Maharaj. So he remained in that body so that he could do that service. And he's asking the Lord, my Lord, you please stay in front of me while I perform this last act of devotional service in this body. Why? So that my mind can be absorbed on your beautiful form. When the mind is absorbed on the beautiful form of the Lord, then the mind becomes sanctified. It becomes purified. Although the body was fit to be given up, he was still remaining in that body because there was some service to be rendered in that body. We see some examples in our society also, ISKCON society. His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. It's amazing. It's been so many years since he got that stroke. It was in the year 2008. He had actually visited New Vrindavan. We were living in New Vrindavan then. He had come during the Festival of Inspiration, which was in May. And I got the opportunity to cook for him and, see him, talk to him. And the same year, October, Kartik, he got the stroke in India. And now it is 2022. So it's almost 14 years. And he's still continuing. That night, when he was taken to the hospital, the Hinduja hospital in Bombay, the doctor said, when he actually came back, like he still survived, the doctor said, it is beyond all, medical or scientific reasoning, how anyone can survive this type of stroke. He had it at the root of his brain. I don't know the details, but nobody could live through that. Not only did he live through that, but he continued his devotional service, and it is 14 years now, and he's traveling. He preached. He came to New Jersey. He gave a class. Then he went to Atlanta. He initiated disciples. Again, he came to New York. Wherever he goes, he's preaching. And then he went back to Mayapur. So Maharaj says that once he had a dream. After he got this stroke, he had a dream. And he was in this golden city. It appeared like the spiritual world. His god brothers were there who had already left this world, like Tamal Krishna Maharaj and others. And they were asking him to come. They were inviting him, come, you also come, join us. This is in the dream. And Maharaj said, no, I cannot come now. It's wonderful here, but I still have service to do in Mayapur. Prabhupada gave me some instructions, and I cannot leave now before fulfilling those instructions. Isn't it the same mode as Bhishma Dev? A devotee is not concerned about going back home, back to Godhead, and living happily ever after with Krishna. What we are trying to cultivate is that mood of being absorbed in Krishna consciousness. That can be cultivated even in this material world, in this material body. And if I can stay on that platform of 24 hours meditation on the Supreme Lord, then it does not matter. It does not matter whether I'm here in this material body, in the material world, in the hellish planet, or in the spiritual world. It does not matter because I'm already there. Isn't it? So if you are with Krishna, connected to him through devotional service, your mind is completely absorbed on Krishna. That's the only thing a devotee wants. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Shikshashtakam, Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhaktira haitukitoi. I don't want na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam, things that people want in this world. Kanaka kamini kirti, right? Wealth. You want beautiful women and you want fame, name in this world. So many followers. I don't want any of these things. I want ahaituki bhakti, That means pure devotional service. Mama Janmani, Janmanishware. Life after life after life. That means he's saying, I don't even want liberation. I don't even want liberation. Give me life after life after life, but my only desire is give me ahaituki bhakti, pure unalloyed devotional service. That is the highest ambition of a pure devotee. There's also another devotee that my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, tells. Once, so before he joined ISKCON, you must have come across or maybe read The Journey Home, written by him. So he was in Vrindavan. And while he was in Vrindavan, he had this friend, Ghanshyam Baba, who was very old, maybe in his 90s. And Maharaj at that time was a very young, 19 years old. So obviously the relationship was like of a grandfather and a grandson. But this devotee, Ghanshyam Baba, was worshipping these devotees, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Radha Krishna. How he got these deities is also very interesting. But if I tell the whole thing, it will be a long time. So I won't go into the details. Just trying to make the point here, how a devotee's concern is only devotional service. For that, he can live. He will live as long as there is service. He will live only for service. That's the point I'm trying to make through this example. So this Ghanshyam Baba, when he was a young man, he came to Vrindavan. And when he came with his family, he was so attracted to Vrindavan, he didn't want to go back. His family, he was actually from a very wealthy family, from like a Marwadi, like Rajasthan somewhere. He was a very, from aristocratic family with a lot of wealth. So the family members called him, he didn't go. They said, we are going to, you won't get any property, any wealth, we'll disown you. He didn't care, he didn't go back. He stayed in Vrindavan and he had no home. He would just stay there in the open under a tree somewhere. He would just stay there. And every day he would, in the morning, he would write Radha on the ground. And then he would just chant the names of the Lord. That was his deity. He would write Radha and then he would just look at that and he would just chant. One day, and in the evening, he would just clear it off so that people won't walk on that name. One day, while he was writing, so he was writing in the same place, he could feel something underneath, some metal or something. So he just dug a little bit and he found the deities, beautiful golden deities of Sri Gopi Jana Vallabha, Radha Krishna deities. So these deities became his life and soul. He didn't have a temple, he didn't have anything to worship them, but he would just keep them under the tree and he would just serve them to the best of his capacity, get water from the Yamuna, bathe them like that. He was worshipping. So after some time, one family, they were a family, with children. So they offered a place for his deities. That was a closet in the veranda of their house. So he put the deities in the closet. That was the temple of Gopi Jana Vallabha. And he would go beg every day at noontime. So in Braj, they give you rotis. So he would bring the rotis back and he would offer that to his deity every day. That's the only thing. And all day long, he would simply sit there and chant in front of them or, do some services for the deities. That was his only meditation all his life. It was at this time when His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj met him. Once his friends brought him to this devotee, this small temple. It's a closet in the veranda. So the deities would stay there. And anyone who would come to see the deities, it was not a full-fledged temple. So hardly anyone would come. But if anyone would come, he would treat that person to be a friend of Krishna's. You are a guest of Krishna, Krishna's friend. He has invited you. So he would serve them like he would serve the deities. So whatever rotis he would get by begging and he would offer to the deities, he would feed them to the guests. And that day he would fast. He would not eat anything. So and Radhanath Maharaj really, because this was a small temple, very simple, but there was so much sweetness, madhurya. He would always go there. Every day he would go and spend some time with him. And every day this Ghanashyam Baba would insist that Maharaj eat the rotis. And then he would just eat. So one day his friend told Maharaj that you're going there. So for so many days, Ghanashyam Baba hasn't eaten anything. What do you mean? Because you're eating up all his rotis. He doesn't have time to go and beg. Once he goes for Madhukari, whatever rotis he gets, he'll just offer to the deities. Or I don't know, even if he went for Madhukari, neighbors, I think they would just bring and give him. Like one family would give one roti, another family one roti, like that. So you're eating, so he has nothing. So then Radhanath Maharaj thought, okay, I will not go. So one day he went after that, and again Ghanashyam Baba was saying, you should eat. And he said, no, I'm not eating. So anyway, they had a very sweet, loving exchange. But every time he would somehow or other insist and convince Maharaj to eat all the rotis. He was very, very affectionate, loving. So there were other incidents also, I won't go into the details now because of shortage of time. And then because of his visa issues, Radhanath Maharaj had to come back to America. And then he went, this devotee, Ghanashyam Baba, would call him because he was not Radhanath Maharaj at that time. He was not even Radhanath Das at that time. He was Richard. So he would call him, Ghanashyam Baba would call him Ratin Krishnadas. Ratin Krishnadas means the servant of Krishna who is the chariot driver of Arjuna. So that's how he would address him. Ratin, he would call. So he said, now I have to go back to America. I'm so attached to Vrindavan. I don't want to leave. And he said, I heard that Srila Prabhupada has opened a place called New Vrindavan in America. And that place is non-different from Vrindavan. So if you have to go back to America, you should live in that place because that is same as this Vrindavan. So that's how Maharaj ended up in New Vrindavan because of that instruction. And then after at least 10 years, he had to, he ended up staying in New Vrindavan. He took initiation. So many things happened. And then one day he also had to take sannyas. He didn't want to take sannyas. But the leader of the community said, if you accept to take sannyas, then you can go to Vrindavan. Maharaj had this desire to go to Vrindavan, but back then the mood was service, right? So he couldn't leave his services. So he never got to go back to Vrindavan. It had been many years. So then Maharaj said, the leader of the community said, if you agree to take sannyas, then you can go to Vrindavan, visit and come back. And he had this desire, I'll go to Vrindavan and I will see Ghanashyam Baba and his friends. So he agreed. He took sannyas, finally. And then he came. And he went to see Ghanashyam Baba. He had become, imagine, 10 years older than what he was before. He was very old. He could hardly see. And he went to Gopijan. And now Maharaj was in ISKCON and he was a sannyasi. So he had so many responsibilities, commitments. He was not like before. He could just go wherever he wanted and just spend time there all the time. So somehow or other from his busy schedule, he managed to take some time out and he went to meet with Ghanashyam Baba. And he was sitting outside on the stairs of his little temple. And he was just sitting there and looking, so Maharaj went and he saw he looked really old. And he didn't even recognize Maharaj because now he was as a sannyasi, all shaven. Before he had, long hair and everything. At first he didn't recognize and he just kept looking at him. And all of a sudden there were tears in his eyes and he said, Ratin. He recognized him and he was crying. And then, you have come back. I'm so happy to see you, like that. So then his deities were big deities, the murtis of Gopijana Vallabha. They were heavy. So earlier Maharaj would help him. He could not So one service that he did every day was he would get water from the Yamuna and he would bathe them every day. So this time also Maharaj helped him. So whenever he had some help, then he would actually put them, they had a small swing. So at night he would put them in the swing bed and he would just, put them to bed, let them sleep at night like that when he had help. So when Maharaj went as a sannyasi, he helped and they actually put Radha Gopi Janavallabha on the bed like that. And again, he had to come back. The next time Maharaj went to India, he went to the same place and he saw he was not there. Ghanshyam Baba is not there. And he went and opened he asked the people, Ghanshyam Baba, where is he? And the closet in which Gopijana Vallabha used to say there were some buckets and brooms kept, it was just open like that. So he asked the people who were living there, Ghanshyam Baba, and they said, Goloka. He went to Goloka. And then he asked, what happened to Gopijana Vallabha? And he found out. So somebody created, seeing how he was serving the deities all by himself, they created a trust, some wealthy person, and they constructed a temple, a full-fledged temple for Gopi Janavallabha, and his worship was arranged. So Maharaj actually went to that temple and he found out that as soon as a proper situation was arranged for the deity worship to take care of them, and there were pujaris and their maintenance was taken care of, he left his body. Even though he was so old, he didn't die, he didn't give up his body because he had that service to do. So he kept on. And Maharaj would say that he would never, anytime he would go, Maharaj would go at different times of the day. Sometimes in the morning, afternoon, anytime he would go, you would see him just sitting there singing to the deities or just fanning them. His complete absorption was service to those deities. And when that service was now in good hands and that service would continue, when he saw that they were going to be taken care of, he left his body. So that is the mood of a devotee. He's only interested, he's only concerned with service to the Lord. And what is the devotee's prayer? That he wants to have constant remembrance of the Lord. In whatever circumstances, my Lord, you want me to serve, let me have constant remembrance of you. In other words, please keep me engaged in your loving service. That is the only prayer of the best devotees, the topmost devotees. There are many, many examples. The gopis were willing to give the dust from their feet to put on Krishna's head so that he will be relieved of his headache. They didn't care that they would go to hell. So what is really going back home, back to Godhead? What does it mean? We want to go back home, back to Godhead. What does it mean? Going back home, back to Godhead means from the realization of such great devotees as Bhishma Dev, we understand going back home, back to Godhead means to have that type of complete absorption in Krishna. That is the ultimate form of liberation. Then it doesn't matter where I am, in which form, material body, material world, spiritual world, wherever I may be. That's what a devotee is asking. And that we see in the life of Bhishma Dev. He desired that the Lord stay before him in his four-handed Narayan feature so that he might concentrate upon him and thus be in trance in that meditation. And why is he calculating? So that at the time, we may think, right? He's asking, Lord, you stay in front of my eyes at the time of death because antakalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaha prayati samadbhavam yati natya atra samshaya. Certainly he will go back to Godhead. So that he can go back to Godhead. Is that why he wanted to see? Krishna, is that why he's saying, Krishna, you stand in front of me so that at the time of death, I'll be looking at you and then I know my destination is certain. I'm going back to God. Is that why? No. Srila Prabhupada, another pure devotee, is revealing the heart of a pure devotee. What is going on in the heart of Bhishma Dev? How will I understand? I will come to my own conclusions according to my consciousness, right? I will say he is waiting for Uttarayana so that he can be liberated or he can go back to heaven. But what exactly is Bhishma Dev desiring? What is his ambition? How will I know? When another pure devotee who is able to realize that, who's able to see that, when he reveals it, then I can understand. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining, our acharyas are explaining what is going on in the mind of Bhishma Dev. He's saying that I want to see you because when I see you, the mind becomes sanctified by thinking of the Lord. So he did not mind where he might go. A pure devotee is never very anxious to go back to the kingdom of God. He entirely depends on the goodwill of the Lord. He is depending on the goodwill of the Lord. He is equally satisfied, even if the Lord desires him to go to hell. The only desire that a pure devotee entertains is that he may always be in rapt attention with thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord. That's the highest ambition, that the mind be absorbed in thinking of the Lord. And that is possible. The good news is it is possible to practice that, to aspire for that in this condition. Even in our material condition, we can aspire for that. We don't have to wait until I give up this body. When I go back to Godhead, then I'll be Krishna conscious all the time. Now I have too many distractions. No, Bhishma Dev was able to do it in this life, in this body. There are many, many things to be spoken in this. We are running out of time, so I will stop here. But Srimad Bhagavatam is such a blessing for all of us. Srimad Bhagavatam is filled with the prayers of devotees like Bhishma Dev, like Kunti Maharani, like Prahlad Maharaj. Their prayers, what are their prayers? It is their realizations of Krishna. What is in their heart is being spoken out in words. And we, ordinary people, have access to these realizations. By hearing from these devotees, we get absorption in Krishna. And that is the goal of, the highest goal that anyone can aspire for. So I will stop here. Thank you very much for your attention. Hare Krishna. And please forgive me if I said anything which is not in line. Yes, Golokananda Priya Mataji, please. Hare Krishna. You are in mute, Mataji. Golokananda Priya Mataji. I'm not able to hear you.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, thank you. Very, very nice class. So thank you for the nice story about Radhanath Maharaj, about Gopi Janavallabha. I never heard of this story. This is really new to me and very nice. And I have one question. Prabhupada said in many purport, we have to, be Krishna consciousness. We should not wait for our next lifetime to go back to Godhead. What do you have to say about it?
Yes, Mataji.
We have to perfect our life in this lifetime only and try to get out of this world.
Correct. And even Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that this place is no place for a gentleman, right? So that is there. So the idea is that you should become very serious in Krishna consciousness. Don't be relaxed thinking that, well, we get another chance because I have started, I'll get another chance in my next life. At least I'll get a human body. That means there is some laziness. In Sanskrit, it's called kadariyata. So you're putting it off. Don't do that. You give your 100% now. So you see, when we read Srimad Bhagavatam also, there is Falashruti, right? At the end of each pastime, it says that anyone who hears this pastime, all his desires will be fulfilled. He will have children. He will become the emperor of the world. So many different Falashrutis are there. Are these the actual desirable results for us? No. But when we get something as an incentive, then the tendencies will take it more seriously. So sometimes the result is offered, right? And seeing the gift, then we become serious in our endeavor. Just like children, small children, when they do some exercise, they get a star, a sticker. So they get very excited. They get very happy. Oh, I'm going to get a sticker. So they'll do their work nicely. So really, the important thing is not the result. The important thing that we should become Krishna conscious. For this or that, one way or the other, you become Krishna conscious. So yes, there is sadhana bhakti, there is bhava bhakti, and there is prema bhakti. We all know the ultimate goal is prema. Ultimate goal is to get love of Godhead. But if you see the levels, in sadhana bhakti, the characteristic feature is kleshagni and shubhada. When you're practicing devotional service, then the symptoms are, characteristic features are kleshagni. All your kleshas, sufferings will be removed and auspicious qualities will come in you. The next level of bhava bhakti is moksha laghutakrit. You don't even care for moksha. This means what? When you're in sadhana bhakti, yes, you may be aspiring for moksha. You want to be liberated. You want to go back to Godhead because this world is full of miseries. You may have that type of desire and it may be okay. But you don't want to stay in first grade. You want to go to higher and higher levels. So what is the consciousness of the higher devotees? They don't care even for liberation. So when Srila Prabhupada said, yes, you finish your business in this one lifetime, means you work as if this is the only chance you have. You can take it the other way also, like Bhishma Dev. He's saying, I don't know where I'll go in my next life. I better do my best now. I may not get this opportunity, this association in my next life. Let me take advantage of every opportunity, every single opportunity I get to render devotional service. Take it very, very seriously. That's how I would look at it, Mataji. You can comment on that.
Yeah, I think about trying to come back again and again and do devotional service is for me. It's meant only for exalted devotees, something very advanced devotee, like ordinary devotees. We always want to go back home, back to Godhead. We just don't want to. We just want to go there. So
which is good, which is also good, certainly. Yeah, it's and that encouragement is also given. We should try. But as you also said, yeah, the higher levels of consciousness is Bhishma Dev, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Okay, Mataji.
Thank you very much. Very interesting class. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, I think Shyam Gauri Prabhu, you raised your hand, and then I'll go to Dronacharya Prabhu. No?
Okay, now Dronacharya Prabhu can go first.
Okay. Dronacharya Prabhu.
Mataji, please. Please first.
Shyam Gauri Mataji.
Okay, Mataji. No, it might be a stupid question, but in purport, Srila Prabhupada had said, like, although it was 100% certain that Bhishma Dev was approaching Vaikuntha Dham, so like for us, like being like a devotee, like we always hear that we have to aspire for Goloka Dham, not the way to Vaikuntha. But here it says Vaikuntha Dham, so can you clarify a little bit on that?
Because Bhishma Dev's Ishtadev is Lord Narayan. That's said in the beginning of the purport, no? That's why. So, yeah, going back to Vaikuntha Dham or Golok Dham, depending on who your Ishtadev is, that's where you would want to go. So, at the beginning of the purport itself, Srila Prabhupada said that his Ishtadevata is Lord Narayan because his relationship was in the mood of Virya Ras. So that's why it says it's certain that he's going back to Vaikuntha. Is that the question you asked?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Dronacharya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for a wonderful class. My question is kind of in line with what Mother, I guess, Shamagori was asking, is the relationship between Krishna and Narayan. that it's prevalent, I think, among Hindus, as well as kind of among, historians, scholars, that Narayan or Vishnu is actually the source of all incarnations, and that Krishna is, I guess, at a lesser position than Narayan. Now, both are elevated positions. It's not like one is bad, one is good, or we're not in that category. But our understanding is a little different, that Krishna is the source of all incarnations. I remember this one gentleman who came to the temple one time, and he would only chant the Maha Mantra with Ram first before Krishna, because he's saying Ram comes before Krishna, so therefore we should elevate Ram higher than Krishna. So he would sing Ram as Ramchandra. So there's these conceptions out there. I'm just kind of curious where they come from. If our conviction is that that Krishna is the source of all incarnations, where some people would say no, that actually Vishnu is the source of all incarnations, and Krishna is just a manifestation of one of the incarnations of Vishnu.
Yes, Prabhuji, the source is actually from the Vedas only. It is from the Vedas. So again, going back to Vyasdev's giving us the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutras, and then ultimately coming to Srimad Bhagavatam on the instruction of Narad Muni, his Guru Maharaj. So the thing is, majority of the people, the Vedas, most of the Vedas are dealing with the modes of material nature, or meant for the people who are in the modes of material nature, and they will not take to Krishna consciousness, because Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja is not very attractive to the people. It's not very attractive. So knowledge about Krishna is most confidential. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Yauvanam cha Vedeshu Durlabham. To understand that Krishna is the source of all Narayans, if you're trying to understand this information through Vedas, it is Durlabham. It is very difficult. Adurlabham Atma Bhakta. So, but it is easily understandable from a pure devotee, like we are getting here from Bhishma Dev or from Kunti Maharani. So why this understanding is there? Where is this information coming from, that Lord Narayan is the supreme? Yes, because that is given in the Vedas like that, but that doesn't mean that is the ultimate. It's just like, how many students do you find in an undergrad class? How many students do you find in a graduate class? And how many students do you find who are actually, doing PhD and who are in postdocs? They don't even have a classroom as such. They're doing their own research. There's one or two. So as you go higher and higher and higher, it becomes narrow, means it is not accessible to everyone. That is specialized knowledge. So that information you can only get through when you have connections through the top people. Therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. Otherwise, how we will know about Golok Vrindavan Dham? What is all this? From Madhavendra Puri it started. Even within our line also, this confidential information was not easily available to everyone, because it's the most valuable gem. So why it is not available? Because people are not qualified. Majority of the people are not qualified. But somehow or other, by some causeless mercy, this is Chaitanya. That's why he's the Audarya form, the most liberal. He's giving the rarest gem at the cheapest price. This is unheard of, unseen. Therefore, Yamaraj is fainting, seeing this type of mercy. How is it possible? He becomes, he just faints when he sees that Jagai and Madhai are delivered. That is personal experience. So yeah, why they have this type of understanding, even in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya also, they have that, they can have, see, also when you talk about God, what is our understanding of someone who's in a very high position? We would look up to them like a master, like a lord. That's the highest we can comprehend. Can we think of the Supreme Lord as being your friend, your lover, and joking with him? That's not possible. That's confidential. So therefore, Lord Narayan, you don't talk about Lord Narayan's father, mother, and his childhood. We don't talk of these things. He's God. So that's what people are able to look up to that point. Beyond that, you will need to hear from those who are there through confidential sources. That is coming through Parampara. I will stop at that. Was that okay, Dronacharya Prabhu? Did it address the question?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. That explains a lot. You took it beyond just the sectarian idea. You know, there's very philosophical understanding. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Charuchandra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yes, one example that just my favorite example that further it goes along with what you were just explaining to Dronacharya is when Gopakumar was in the Vaikunthas. So he's going up through and he's the heavenly planets and then he's in Vaikuntha. So when he was in Vaikuntha, four-armed Narayan actually took the form of Krishna and was playing a flute with him and playing around. And the Vaikuntha Vasis, they didn't think it was strange. They just thought, okay, our Lord Narayan is now playing with this person in his Krishna form. It's like, no big deal, whatever. But, he's Narayan. So as you were mentioning, to some people, Narayan is the supreme. And so that's the way that it's presented. And, although Gopakumar then finally, kept going and then he ended up in Gokul, and so ultimately Krishna is the original source. But to people who see Narayan as the supreme, they just see Krishna as, one of his pastimes that he sometimes does. So it's not that we try to necessarily argue with these people. If that's what they believe, then that's cool. They go to Vaikuntha. That's fine with us. That's their destination. But sometimes, like a bhakta will bring up this point, and so it's different. We describe it differently depending on who we're talking to. But yeah, that's my favorite example of what you were talking about with Gopakumar and being in Vaikuntha and seeing all those Vaikuntha Vasis, and like I said, they didn't think it was strange or it's just oh, okay, so he's doing this now, but soon it'll be over and we'll be back to normal. For them, that would be normal, the Narayan.
Yes, thank you so much for that addition. Yes, Prabhuji. And that actually perfectly fits in that explanation. Yes, and also about speaking to people. Yes, if there is a possibility when you're speaking to somebody, and because really the ultimate realization is the realization of Krishna, because he's the source of all rasas. Only out of ignorance of Krishna's position does someone develop an attraction to some form other than Krishna's. When I become attracted to a particular form of Narayan, it's because of my ignorance of Krishna's position. Nevertheless, once I develop that attraction, it's hard to take it back, right? So then I have given my heart there already. So after that, even if I understand Krishna's position, I cannot take it back. So I remain faithful and satisfied with my relationship with that. But in the first place, why does someone even get attracted to any other form other than Krishna? The answer is it's only because of ignorance of Krishna's position. So yes, if you come across someone who can actually, it's because of not knowing Krishna's position, he's worshipping Lord Narayan as the supreme. But when he understands that Krishna is the supreme, then he can actually go to the next level. Then yes, it is preached there. But if somebody is already set and fixed in his worship, then he's not disturbed, because he's after all worshipping the Supreme Lord, right? So there is no harm with that, like that. So I appreciate that, Charuchandra Prabhu, for that addition. So we can stop here. We are way over time. Thank you so much for your attention. and for participating. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha
Patitanam
patitanam
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
namo
Namaha.
namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi ki jai.
Jai. I also wanted to thank you, Mother Archana Bhakti, for switching on short notice, your timing. So thank you for being flexible in that way. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said, it's good if we can prepare for class, but we should be ready. Even if we are not prepared, we should be ready to just come and glorify Krishna to whatever capacity we are able to. So in that mood, I thought I'll just take the opportunity.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.